Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to go over the instructions for your second real-life application project. So to find the instructions, guidelines, and grading rubrics for the second real-life application project, you're going to go into the course content folder and then scroll down to the bottom, and I have a separate folder titled real-life application projects. And we'll want to click on this Word document here for RLAP 2, which is Real Life Application Project 2. And as you can see, it is due on Tuesday, May 5th. You have until 11:59 p.m. to submit your assignments, and there will be a submission folder on Blackboard right in this same content folder for the Real Life Application projects. Also, just to note, it's due on Tuesday, which means you don't have a lot of time, but you do not have a guided questions assignment that week. Our last guided questions assignment will be due next Tuesday, so this will be the only thing you'll have to work on to complete during this week of class. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this document here and open it up, and then I'll go through the different options that are available to you for this second real-life application project. All right, let me make this a little bit larger here. All right, so this is, like I said, the second real life application project you'll complete this semester, the second and final, and it's going to be in a different format than the first one. So you, again, will get 3 different options to choose from on this one. The first real life application project, you got to choose between 2 different options. For this final one, I'm giving you 3 different options. And as the title suggests, for this real life application project, the objective is to engage in less talk and more action. So really starting to think critically about how we can use sociology and everything you've learned in this course to be positive agents of social change. So as it says here, sociology can make the world a better place. I know studying systems of inequality can make sociology seem like the study of doom and gloom, but the science of sociology can also be used to address these inequalities and serve as a catalyst for positive social change. For your final real life application project, you will engage in one of 3 different activities that actively address issues of social inequality. Your goal for this assignment is to make an effort to fight inequality at structural, cultural, or interpersonal levels. You will have 3 different options to choose from for this assignment, and important for you to note here is that if you choose option 2 or 3 for this real life application project, you can actually complete it in small groups. So I am giving you the option to collaborate with 1 or 2 other students in your class to complete this final real life application project. And again, this is only an option for people who choose the second or third option. This first option I'm going to go over is only for people that want to work independently. Now, I should note that you can still do options 2 and 3 by yourself. You do not need to work with others. But if you're someone who is really missing the interaction in our classroom, maybe you formed a friendship before spring break when we got forced online, if you want to reach out to a classmate and see if they'd like to partner up so you can work collectively on this assignment, for this final real life application project, you are welcome to do so. But again, that's only for options 2 and 3. So let's start by going over option 1. So this one, you cannot work with someone else. You would have to complete this one independently. And for this option, we were attempting to make structural change, so change at the institutional or structural level, specifically through legal reform. So for this option, you will research a current piece of active legislation that somehow pertains to a social inequality. After evaluating the bill, you will bill with a sociological mind, you will write and send a letter to your congresspeople, either endorsing or critiquing the bill. In your letter, you should use your expertise as a sociologist. In other words, you should use sociology to explain why the bill is either problematic or productive in terms of prohibiting or furthering human equality. So essentially what you're doing for this real life application project for option 1 is writing a letter to Congress. So, every year Congress votes on dozens of different bills, and the vast majority of them in some way, shape, or form contribute to or are related to systems of inequality and oppression. So for this particular option, you would go and view the list of bills currently being examined by Congress, and this link right here is how you access that. And essentially what you'll just do is kind of scroll through these different bills here, or you can filter them by type. You can search for certain topics, and just find a bill that's interested to you. And in some way, shape, or form, like I said, you can almost guarantee that the bill would be sociologically relevant. And so your objective for this option, if you choose it, is to find a bill, to research the bill, and then to write a letter to your representatives and your senators, encouraging them to either vote in favor or against the bill. And then you have to use sociology in the letter that you write to your congresspeople to make a sociological argument as to why you think your congresspeople should either vote in favor or against this bill. All right, so again, this first hyperlink here takes you to the list of bills. So you have to do a little digging, have to do a little research. If you know of a bill off the top of your head that's currently being debated in Congress, great, go for that one. If you're not sure, like I said, you can do some research, do some Google searches to find bills, or just look through the different options that are listed here. When you want to find a bill that you're interested, if you want to actually read through the whole text of the bill, this next link that I provided gives you step-by-step instructions about how you can do that. I've also provided a link here to this quick little article online that provides a very clear step-by-step template for how to write a letter to Congress. So I expect you to follow this template when you write your letters, if this is the option that you choose. And I won't read through this all here. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but you definitely should be following this template that I provide in this link here. And then lastly, how to find your representatives. Hopefully you know who your representative and who your state representative and your senators, your state senators are. But if you don't, this is a link here that you can just enter in your zip code and it will tell you who your state representative is. And then similarly, you can do a Google search to find out who your state senators are if you do not know who they are. And that is who you will specifically address this letter to, right? Also in this link to find your senator or your representatives, when you enter in your zip code, I'll enter mine just as a quick example here, right? Find your rep by zip code. It's going to take me here to this, to my representative, right? And then if I click on his highlighted name here, this link, it's going to take me specifically to his web page. And then if I click the contact page here, oops, and go to offices, this is where I would get the actual address that I would address my letter to. All right. So for this particular option, you'll submit two things. The first is a copy of the letter you wrote to Congress. So I want to actually see the letter that you are writing to Congress addressing a bill. And again, this letter must follow the template that's provided in this link here. And then the second thing you will turn in addition to the letter, you will also write a report. All right, so you're turning in two things for this option. Very important to recognize that. You will turn in your letter that you wrote to Congress, and then you also have to write a report, sociologically kind of unpacking this process of writing the letter. So the report that you write will include a detailed description of the bill that you chose, as well as an explanation as to why you chose that bill, and a thorough discussion on how sociology as a science can be used to inform Congress about the issue of inequality being dealt with in this particular piece of legislation. All right, so if I jump down to the grading rubric for this particular option, which is listed down here, you can see that it's worth 70 points. You get 30 points for your letter that you wrote to Congress, again, including all the criteria that I'm listing here. The remaining 45 points you earn in your report. Your report, like it says here, must clearly describe the bill, explain why you particularly chose the bill, what interested it, and then the majority of points for the report you're going to earn through summarizing the argument that you made in your letter, thoroughly discussing how sociology as a science can be used to inform Congress about this particular piece of legislation. So that's option number one. Option number two is titled Cultural Change Community Education. For this option, you will design an interactive presentation or workshop pertaining to a topic of inequality that we have covered in class. You will then reach out to a local organization or school and ask to set up a time wherein you could hold a presentation or workshop, and this can be done virtually. This presentation should be educational and interactive, and it should be specifically tailored to your desired audience. In other words, a presentation for younger children would likely be very different than a presentation for college nursing students. You should use language and imagery that is appropriate for your target audience, and your presentation should have a clear focus and learning objective. So essentially what this option is it gives you an option to create a PowerPoint presentation that you could use, now being trained as a sociologist, to go out and further educate other groups or other members of our community about sociologically relevant topics. So this presentation could be virtually on anything as long as you're presenting it from a sociological perspective. So one way you might choose to go about this option is to think about the topic that we've covered throughout this course that was most interesting or exciting to you, or maybe a topic that we've covered in this course that's most closely related to a career that you're hoping to achieve, and then consider what particular groups of people could you give a presentation to further educate them about the sociological relevance or importance of that topic. So for example, if you are a pre-med student and maybe you're a member of, a nursing club or organization, you could pitch the option of creating a presentation to share with fellow nursing students about, gender and racial implications of healthcare or something. And then you'd present it from a sociological perspective. So for this option, again, you'll submit two different things. The first thing is a PowerPoint presentation that you developed. And if for this, you need to include detailed notes for each slide. So essentially what this means is that in any PowerPoint presentation here, right, you can click this note tab here and there's an option to type in notes. So for each slide that you would include in your PowerPoint presentation, I would want you to type out detailed notes explaining exactly what it is that you would talk about on that slide, right? Because not all slides are going to be jam-packed with content. Some slides are just going to be more descriptive. So this note option is where you would tell me what you would discuss, what questions you would pose, etc. for each of the slides in your presentation. So you'll turn in your actual PowerPoint presentation, and then you will also turn in a written report that includes a detailed description of the school or organization and target audience that your presentation was designed for, an explanation as to why you chose that school or organization and target audience, and a thorough discussion on how sociology as a science can be used to educate your target audience about inequality. A copy of the email or letter, and then the third thing you'll submit is a copy of the email or letter you wrote reaching out to a school or organization of your choosing. So if you wanted to present this to your nursing club that you're a part of, I would want to see an email that you sent out to the president of that nursing organization asking for permission to actually present or share this information with the actual members of that organization. Few links or resources here for you: a beginner guide to PowerPoint, some tips and tricks to make an effective presentation, and then of course feel free to use any of the PowerPoints that I posted on Blackboard that we've covered throughout the semester as kind of building blocks or for ideas to get started. The grading rubric provided for this also, of course, were 75 points. You get 40 points for your PowerPoint presentation, covering all these criteria that I've listed here, including, again, making sure you include detailed notes on each slide, and then 35 points for the report portion of this project. All right. Quickly, the last option is to host a documentary screening. All right. So I hope you're starting to recognize that sociology is very heavily informed in many different documentary films, right? Talking about different issues pertaining to gender, race, social class, education, crime, etc. So for this third option, you would host a virtual film screening, right? Got to practice social distancing. But so, for example, you could, if you're at home with your family right now, you could have your family sit down and watch a documentary together. Or you could even just ask a number of your friends to view a documentary on their own time and then hold a Zoom or a FaceTime and have everyone call in together to have a discussion following the documentary. So you ask people, a small group of people, to watch the documentary, and then the second part of this is holding a discussion, a Q&A afterwards, to sociologically unpack the topic of the documentary that you chose. So for this option, you will submit 1, a list of sociologically informed discussion questions pertaining to the film of your choosing, and 2, a written report that includes a detailed description of the film you chose, an explanation as to why you chose that film, a description of the friends and family who attended your screening, even if it's virtually, a thorough summary of the discussion that followed the screening, a critical reflection of the effectiveness of this event, and a concluding discussion on how sociology as a science can be used to educate friends and family about issues of inequality. So this is a list of the different documentaries that I am recommending. Many of them are available free to stream online. A few of them you'd need a Netflix account to have access to, and you have to use one of these documentaries. These are ones that I've screened and that I've approved because of their sociological relevance. Excuse me. All right. And then the grading rubric is provided for this option as well. Essentially, but again, you're turning in two things: discussion questions and a report. And again, options 2 or 3 can be completed in groups of 2 or 3 students.